the fact is, if the governor can use his public health secretary to exercise the police power over the state indefinitely, the governor would never agree to any legislation. Why would he ever agree to legislation that would limit his power over the entire state? No, it's only through 227 that the agencies created by the legislature can act in this broad way.
In the midst of the deadliest pandemic the world has faced in over a century, the legislature asks this court to handcuff DHS's power to combat infectious disease.
I'd like to direct your attention to Article 1, Section 1 of the Wisconsin Constitution, which reads in part that all people have certain inherent rights. Among these are liberty. To secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. My question for you is, where in the Constitution did the people of Wisconsin confer authority on a single unelected cabinet secretary to compel almost 6 million people to stay at home and close their businesses and face imprisonment if they don't comply, with no input from the legislature, without the consent of the people? Isn't it the very definition of tyranny for one person to order people to be imprisoned for going to work, among other ordinarily lawful activities? Where does the Constitution say that's permissible, counsel?
The Constitution provides that the legislature may enact statutes to protect the public health. And that is exactly what the legislature has done in Chapter 252.02, sub 3, 4, and 6. So I think that expression of legislative intent that grants DHS the power to do whatever is necessary to combat a novel, deadly, communicable disease like the one we're facing today is where we find that consent.
The Wisconsin legislature has brought a lawsuit before this court asking us to invalidate Rule 28. I asked if this court, because of the lawsuit brought by the Wisconsin legislature, would invalidate 28 and leave nothing in its place, kind of flip the switch, so to speak. What kind of ramifications or chaos would result? Your opposing counsel said, well, then the politicians would have to come together. But what kind of real logistics, health, and lives are implicated if that's what this court would do upon the invitation of the Wisconsin legislature bringing this suit?
Your Honor, everyone understands that such an order would be absolutely devastating and extraordinarily unwise. And that is exactly why the legislature asked for a 6-day stay of any order. It understands that if Safer at Home is enjoined with nothing to replace it and people pour out into the streets, that the disease will spread like wildfire. And we will be back into a terrible situation of an out-of-control virus with no weapon to fight it, no treatments, no vaccine, nothing. This is exactly why the legislature decided that a public health agency needs flexibility to act in these extreme circumstances. I think if the legislature decides that after it sees this crisis pass, that more limits need to be placed on DHS's authority in the statutes, it has every right to do so, and I'm sure it will. But in the midst of this crisis, to toy with the statutes that that the legislature has passed, I think you can tell from the concession that the order should be stayed that the legislature has made. You understand exactly why they made that concession. It's because people will die if this order is enjoined with nothing to replace it. That is exactly what will happen.